Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Our Life, Beginnings and Noise. and okay, we are on the Serendipity moment. That's where we are. Yesterday we did the late shift. Uh, we got we get to work with Cove, even though we're working part time. He's working full time, obviously. But anyway, it's a good thing because we get to spend more time together, even though we're working same place. So let's get started on the moment of serendipity. Mm, okay. What? Okay. Never mind. Ah, there we go. All right. Let me get comfortable here a little bit. And I think I need my water too, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Light filtered down through the leaves of an oak tree overhead, casting sprinkled shadows on the sidewalk all around you. There was a drop of drop of sweat slowly making its way down the side of your face. It's been a hot day. You flicked it away with your thumb, slowing to a stop in a cool in the cool shade. The day the day had you out and about in town, in no hurry to go anywhere in particular. Your morning shift had just ended, and there was nothing else planned for the rest of the afternoon. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Your morning shift had just ended, and there was nothing else to do for the rest of the afternoon. Okay. Said that already. Uh, your moms were still at work themselves, and Liz had left early in the morning to do something. You had no idea what. You took out your phone, Eileen, nodding the time when it started to jingle. The screen lit up in your hand. Speak of the devil, Liz messaged you. Come home ASAP. Before you could begin to question why, your phone went off again. Nothing bad, but you have to see this, so come back already. With that final message, you were left only slightly less confused than you were before. You hadn't seen much of your sister lately. She had been acting strange for days, always shutting herself up in her room, which wouldn't be so weird if at dinner if at the dinner table she didn't suddenly start smirking to herself over nothing. The rare times you did see her, she would sneak you. She would sneak you expectant looks, like she was waiting to be asked what was up. But all your questions led nowhere. Grab some water. She'd answer you with a put upon sigh, proclaim that she was busy, and tell you that she would have to talk about it later. No hints, no question, no guessing. Whatever it was, she was determined to keep it a secret. Maybe now you'd finally find out what it was. Okay. As you did an about face on the sidewalk and started heading home, you received more text. To your surprise, the name that popped up on the screen this time was Cove's. Did you hear from Liz? About the same urgent thing you have to see. She messaged Cove too. You weren't surprised. Liz teased him about it, but he was like family. However, you were struggling to understand how he fit into Liz's surprise. Do I have to pick something here? Okay, yeah. Yeah, this sent me the same thing. His his reply came only seconds later as you waited to cross the street. I figured she would. Are you gonna go, are you gonna go see what's up? I'm walking there now. Me too. Glancing up, you saw that the light had changed to a walk sign while you were busy texting. You hurriedly wrapped things up, texting Cove a quick goodbye before crossing the street. It was fine. You'd be seeing him later anyway. Not expecting any more messages, you put your phone away so you could walk without having to worry about tripping over the curb. Thankfully, it was a short trek home, and soon enough you were walking up your street, the familiar face of your house already in view. Thinking of what might be waiting at home. I'm gonna go with the second one. Left you entirely lost. I have no idea what's going on. And the more you learned, the more questions you had. They were all buzzing around your head. Too many to try to pick out, and make sense of. Lost in your thoughts, you almost didn't see who was walking further up the street. Cove. Even from the back, the bright sea green color of his hair was unmistakable. You quickened your pace to catch up to him. The scuff of your shoes loud against the pavement. He heard it instantly, not missing a beat as he turned towards you and slowed his steps in sync.
Hey!
Hey, Chippy. Hi, here we are at my house. At that, Cove gave you a weary smile. Here we are. It sounded almost like a question, wondering why the two of you had been summoned there. Any ideas on what Liz wants us for? You shook your head. The situation was out of character for your sister. Anything could happen. Well, I guess we should go in and find out. Taking his cue, you grabbed your keys and opened the front door. Cove trailed behind you as you entered. You walked through the open door and peered about, not sure what you were looking for. From the entryway, you could see Liz pacing across the living room, her smiling gaze intent on her phone. You had caught her just as she had completed a turn. Behind you, the door clicked shut. The second she heard it, her head darted up to your direction, her features lightening up at the sight of you and Cove. Ah, you've arrived. And together, too. That's perfect, just perfect. And she flashed you a radiant smile. You could almost see her limbs vibrating as she was poised to pounce. Cove raised an eyebrow at your sister's bizarre behavior. Yeah, and I gotta be honest, yeah, I do remember this now, so, but I'm not gonna give anything away, so I'll just keep on going and you'll see what's going on. What's going on? Oh, you'll see. Liz's eyes narrowed with a mischievous glint, and she let out a little crackle. So lately, I've been hard at work on a little plan of mine, and you two to honor, get the honor of seeing it all come together. Here it is. Surprise! She lifted a hand in the air to present the very comfortable but completely mundane living room. In resulting silence, you and Cove glanced around again and then made eye contact with each other. His face mirrored your bafflement. Then suddenly another voice rang out in the room.
Surprise!
Ah. Cove flinched at the shout, his shoulder shouting up to his ears. Laughter came from from your sister, as well as from the other side of the room. Oh, it's Shiloh. Didn't he forget about us in a past memory, past moment? Yeah, okay. Your head wrapped around just in time to see a familiar figure with a freckled face and purple cap swinging up from behind the back of the couch. Cole's mouth fell open, recognition immediately coming to him. Shiloh? Hi, Cove. Hi, Chippy. Yeah, it's Shiloh. Shiloh greeted the two of you so casually, like he'd been gone for 10 days rather than 10 years. Okay, what in the world were you doing there? You couldn't believe it the entire time you were looking around trying to figure out what was going on. Shiloh had been right there, crouched behind the couch. With a wide grin on her face, Liz nickered and clapped her hands together as pleased as a child after a fruitful night of trick or treating. You and Cove's reactions were adequate offerings in her bucket full of treats. As amazed as you were still wondering one thing. Hey, didn't you not know who we were when summer started? What happened between then and now? Shiloh's gaze self-consciously dropped to the side. He tugged the brim of his hat down, bracing himself to answer. But Liz waved a hand at him as if to say, "Don't worry about it. I'll explain." When we got home that day, I changed my mind about letting it go. Why did I have to? Social media exists, right? So I thought, why not try finding him and sending him a little reminder message? Luckily, there are so many 70-year-old Shiloh Fields in the world. It wasn't that hard to do. Hearing Liz speak seemed to encourage Shiloh, who pulled himself together to face both of you and your sister with a careful smile.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry about what happened. When you talked to me at the first time, I was in the middle of a tour for a school field trip. I couldn't get separated from the group and didn't expect anyone to want to be talking to me. I was so worried about getting back to everyone else. I didn't think too hard on what you were saying. But when Liz's message showed up, everything suddenly hit me. Lizzie Chippy Cove, you were the kids of Sunset Bird back when I was a little kid. There was no way I could forget that. Not for real. I, I do I do know all of you, and I'm so happy to get to see you again. I have Lizzie to thank for that. My mom was already planning to take a short trip near here this summer.
Well,
If my mom could bring me along, Lizzie offered to pick me up and bring me the rest of the way so I could visit the neighborhood again. And that's why I decided to make a big reveal instead of outright telling you to I got uh, I got back in contact with Shiloh. Once again, she lifted a hand in the air, properly presenting that long lost childhood friend you all shared. So, ta-da. So, ta-da! Yeah, okay. Alright. Mm. Alright. What am I gonna pick here? Yeah, I'm gonna go with the second one. Alright, still pretty stupid of you not to realize sooner. At that, Shiloh tipped his face down, one hand scratching the back of his neck, while Liz frowned at you. Sorry, I felt pretty dumb myself. Chippy's just being a jerk. Don't mind him. Cole blinked slowly, still a little dazed by everything that was going on. Oh yeah, I should warn you. Um, Shiloh is a character on another game that the creator of this novel also did another novel called Blood Droplets, and Shiloh is one of the characters on there. Oh, and so is Jeremy, by the way, apparently. And and also, I also found out that Shiloh on that game, he's very manipulative. Not the kind of person anybody would really want to get close to, become that close to, if you know what I mean. But anyway. Okay, I think I read this part, didn't I? Maybe not. Cove blinked slowly, still dazed by everything that was going on.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm gonna get some water. Don't disappear or anything. He padded off to the kitchen. No need for a chaperone. He knew where the cups were. Wow, you surprised him, Lizzie, and Chippy too. Did you see his face when I appeared? Yes, I did. Liz patted the cushion front of the couch. Make yourself comfortable. You don't have to keep hunkering down behind there anymore. With a laugh, Shiloh crossed around backside and took the seat. But maybe it was awkward being the only one sitting because he kept idly twiddling his fingers. You could hear him humming to himself, a nonsense tune with no real melody, something to keep his voice busy. Being here again could be more nerve-wracking for him than he let on. Cove's soft voice announced his return. He paused to drag the back of his hand across his mouth, wiping away droplets of water lingered there. Hi, Shiloh. Welcome back. At Cole's confused greeting, Shiloh laughed cheerily.
Thanks.
I think it's amazing you're all still here in the same neighborhood. It's just like how it was way back then. With a giggle that definitely that impelled definitely, Liz nodded in your general direction.
Mm-hmm.
There have been some changes since then. You narrowed your eyes at Liz, and there was no way you could miss the teasing look she was fixing you and Cove with. Shadow's eyes shifted across the group, still smiling politely, but there was a slight tilt to his eyebrows. He didn't know what to make of what she was saying. That that is until Cove cleared his throat and spoke. Chippy and I are dating. It was fascinating how red he got as he said it, but his voice was steady, confident. By now, most people knew you were going out. Shadow's eyes went as wide as saucers, mouth opening into a tiny O shape.
Congratulations! That's amazing!
Really? Congratulations. The two of you seemed to like each other even when you were kids. It's really sweet that you're together. Cove's got himself a keeper. You lifted your head high in confidence, so what if it sounded cocky? Uh, were you wrong? Cove made a snorting sound into his fist, but the warm look he gave you out of the corner of his eyes seemed to agree with your statement. Shadows sighed happily at the moment as Cove raised an eyebrow and gave the room a considering glance. Hey, this is where we met the first time, remember? Right after I moved in, me and Chippy were brought down right here to have a play date with you. Yeah. Shiloh laughed, his eyes downcast as he fiddled with the corner of his collared shirt. We almost didn't meet in the living room because you wanted to jump out the window to get away from me. Cove cringed at the memory of his younger self being pushed back to the forefront of his mind, his mouth going tight. He awkwardly looked away from Shiloh. You have a good memory.
Oh?
Oh, I don't think so. Seeing this place again just brings back lots of things. Just brings lots of things back. He clapped his hands together, an idea suddenly coming to him. But hey, now that our group is together, would you want to go out and visit some of the old places? I've been hiding in the living room since I got here. Liz wasn't afraid to laugh at herself, bringing a hand to her chest to slightly take the blame for that. I'd love to. Yeah. Without missing a beat, the others turned to you for an answer. Sure, why not? It's a nice day out after all. And with that, the four of you headed out into the neighborhood as one. Even with a high, even with how short the time you spent indoors was, the sun was momentarily blinding once you left the house. Squinting, you brought your hand up to shield your eyes. The pleasant summer day had yet to go away. Only a few wispy clouds drifted along in the sky. As you strolled down the way, Liz took the lead, followed by you and Cove, walking side by side. Shiloh freely took to walking in the middle of the road, his arms idly swinging back and forth at his sides as he turned his head every which way to take in as much as he could. It was very much a trip down memory lane for him. You wondered how much the neighborhood had changed in his eyes. Not a word passed between the group about where you were heading first, but soon enough you found yourselves walking the usual path to the shopping street. Before you reached it, the sounds of it did a collective of sandals tracking sand, the shrill calls of seagulls, the overlapping conversations of beachgoers, and random strains of music from various stalls. Wow. The odd gasp had come from Shiloh. His eyes were all lit up. Were there always so many different stores in one place?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Wow, I can see why so many people come here. Hey, do they still have those nice little ice cream stands? Of course they do. Yay, we could get some. It'll be my treat. Thanks, Shiloh. Ice cream sounds perfect on such a hot day. How about you, Cove? You could see that, unlike Liz, Cove was struggling with the decision, brow wrinkled in thought. Finally, a hesitant smile appeared on his face as he settled on keeping to the spirit of the special occasion. Yeah, sounds good to me. Awesome. And Chippy? Alright, like that, thanks. Shiloh gave you a wide grin, as if you were the one buying him ice cream. The four of you continued to walk as ice cream plans were further discussed. Are you getting a popsicle, Lizzie? Yes. Hearing that, Shiloh smiled shyly. I thought you might still like that. I'm gonna get an ice cream cone. Shiloh began to turn towards Cove, but before he could ask, Cove offered up his choice. I'll get an ice cream sandwich. I'm gonna get an ice cream cone. I don't always have to pick the same thing that Cove did. Charlotte had the right idea for this one. It was the best choice. You still like those? Cool. Yep. There was an ice cream stall further up the street across from a souvenir shop displaying postcards from the of the seaside and saltwater taffy in its windows. The stand itself was already hard to miss, with its pastel pinks and blues, and its eye-catching poster boards listing every individual failure. It was impossible to ignore once the catchy little jingle playing from its speakers was added. Shiloh greeted the owner and began picking out the treats that everyone had chosen. He paid for them before handing them out to their respective owners. Sinking your teeth into your ice cream cone, you relished the sweet chill it left in your mouth. Liz was right. This was a perfect treat for a summer day. Around you, everyone was eating at their own pace. Liz held her popsicle away from herself, careful not to let it drip onto her dress. She was trying to go about eating it as delicately as she could, while Shiloh dug into his. You counted only 2 or 3 bites before Cove had devoured his sandwich. Shiloh laughed, also noticing the way Cove inhaled his food. It's already finished? Cove shrugged a little in reply, his attention more focused on crumpling up the sandwich wrapper in his hand. So, what have you been doing around here since I've been gone? Well, I already told you about me attending college away from here, so I don't really live here anymore. But to be more specific on my life, I'm pursuing a degree in architecture. Cheryl perked up at that, his mouth falling open in awe. Amazing.
Thanks.
Actually, I was thinking about it the first time. I already decided I liked buildings, and building them was one you and I would make. I liked buildings, and building them was when you and I would make sound castles on the beach.
Aw.
Oh, Lizzie. At such a sincere admission from your sister, all Shiloh could do was blush and lower his head, too flattered to know what else to say. Liz laughed, just as flustered though she had been one to say it. The atmosphere was awkward but not unpleasant. Shiloh shyly glanced over to you and Cove. Then what about you two? What have you been up to?
Huh.
Me and Chippy just graduated high school. I mean, I've got a part-time job. I volunteer at this organization to clean up stuff, things like that. I thought you were taking a full-time job, Cove. Not yet? Okay, so maybe a further in step 4, I guess. Because he was talking about going full-time and then finding a place, finding an apartment. Excuse me. Okay. Second one. You idly explained how you were doing normal things. You felt there wasn't anything super interesting to share about your life. What you cared about what was most important to you, but you knew it wasn't always the same for other people. Charlotte just seemed happy to hear it.
Great!
Being around him again was a little like picking up an old forgotten habit, clinking, clunky at first, but as the four of you talked, it started to come more natural. And when one of you ran out of things to say, suddenly someone else remembered something new. All right. Do you remember those mean old, not actual grandparents that used to live in the neighborhood? Yeah, they were so mean. Well, they're not here anymore. Oh no. Uh, they're not spending summers here anymore. They're still alive. Thank goodness. It helped that Shiloh was just as eager to hear what had gone on in his absence as people were still were to tell him. Soon, everyone threw out what trash they had in a nearby garbage can as your group made their way down to the beach. Going down the shore inevitably led to a certain spot. It didn't take long for Shiloh to recognize what was in the distance. His words trailed off in the middle of a sentence. His footsteps flattered at first. Flattering at first. Yeah, okay. Then all at once, he broke away from the group and dashed right into the old part, giggling as he ran. Oh, everything's so small. His laughter petered out as he came to a stop by the swings and grabbed hold of one of the support poles. He walked a little in a little circle around it, marveling at how easily his hand wrapped around it entirely. Bit by Shadow's enthusiasm, Liz popped herself down on one of the swing sets, only to instantly show an expression of regret. There was no way she was comfortable in that tiny seat so low to the ground, not with how she had scrunched up her legs to fit there. Shiloh creeped up behind her. He took hold of the chains of her swing in one in each hand.
Seriously?
What are you doing? And with a grin, Shiloh started walking back. Liz shifted her in her seat to look at him. You cannot be trying to push me. These are made for kids. It's never gonna work. But Shiloh just hummed and kept pulling her back, resigning himself to her fate. Liz tucked her legs up as much as possible as Shiloh moved his hands to her back. With a running start, he got her forward and up as far as he could go before jumping out of the way. Liz had her eyes squeezed shut, a screech escaping her as the swing started falling backwards, and when it swung back around, there was Shiloh again to push her. She couldn't kick the ground like when you were kids. Her legs were too long for that now, but Shiloh was pushing her enough to keep the momentum going. The air was filled with their wild laughter and almost rhythmic jingle of the swing chains. Cove sat against the bars of the jungle gym, wearing a bent smile as he watched them. He was fiddling with something, turning it over and over in his hands. When you craned your neck to get a better view, he obviously lifted it for you to see. It was a piece of shell, one side rough and molded gray, the other side completely smooth, revealing a faint blue sheen when it caught the light. I saw it on the beach. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's a good one. No, I meant Shiloh. He seems more confident than I remember. I'm gonna go with the second one. You found it amazing to be playing with Shiloh at the park again. I don't think I'll ever forget this. Cove nodded, leaning back to enjoy the breeze blowing in from the sea. Soon your sister began to speak out. All right. I'm ready to get off now. How do you stop this? Don't worry. Shiloh braced himself, one foot planted forward as he swing started coming back down. Then, in one quick motion, he reached up and caught the chains again. The impact of his feet skinning back in the sand, but he kept his stance steady. If Liz was surprised at suddenly being brought to a halt, she didn't show it, only tilting her head up to smile at him. Shiloh had yet to catch his breath, though returned the smile just as brightly. He let go of the chains, walking around the swing set and briefly rubbing his hands together before offering one to Liz, which she generously accepted, needing the help to get out of the tiny seat. Then the two of them made their way back over to Ewan Cove. Liz was looking more ruffled than usual, and her sun hat was off kilter, having held on for dear life after the entire ride. She took a moment to straighten her outfit back into place. That looked fun. It was. Even though you were just pushing me on the swings. Yeah, that was the fun part.
Huh.
Hey Shiloh, you've got an idea of what our lives have been like since you've been gone, but I've been wondering what happened to you after you moved away. Shiloh's eyes went wide, as if it was surprising to hear. You couldn't recall him talking about himself when you were all telling stories, but maybe he hadn't been able to find the right timing. He brought his hand to his chin, tapping it thoughtfully as he looked up and to the side. Well, what happened was my mom decided to move back to the south, closer to where I was born. We stayed there for a few years until she got another job offer in California again, thanks to a connection she had here. It was a really good job at a private boarding school, so she decided to take it. With a wide grin, he said, "Next part." And the bonus is as her kid, me, gets to attend the school and live in the dorms for free. I've been there since my second year of middle school. Pretty soon I'm going to be starting my last year of high school. Liz leaned towards him with an attentive smile on her face. Have you been doing well there? Getting good grades? Got any friends? At the list of questions, Shiloh held his hands in front of himself, as if they were physical things he could stave off.
Yeah.
Yeah, to everything. It can be a little hard sometimes because of how people are in that school, but I'm happy. How people are? Cove couldn't guess what that meant, but Liz folded her arms, scouring.
Hmm.
Don't tell me there's more people like that Nate guy hanging around. Shiloh rubbed his neck, laughing nervously. He glanced from the bars of the jungle gym to the laces of his shoes to the trees swaying in the distance, unsure of where to rest his gaze. Not exactly. Nate doesn't mean to be mean. He just kind of is. He's the school's number one performer for athletics and academics. He always takes on so much responsibility that the only possible way he can finish it all as if absolutely nothing goes wrong. But that's impossible. So he's always stressed and ready to snap. He can't handle it when someone seems to be causing a problem. That's why the field that's why during the field trip he was upset when I went off on my own like that. Still, he's really smart and reliable and sensitive, and he cares a lot most of the time. He doesn't even realize his way of dealing with stuff upsets other people. Cove had a patient smile on his face, listening earnestly as Shiloh rattled off his list of Nate's good traits. You know, you know him pretty well. Are you actually friends? Well, not exactly. Me and Nate are in the same school group. About once a month, me, six other students, and a supervisor get together to talk. Hmm. We did it all last year, and I think next year we're going to be in the same group again. I hope so. Nice. Shiloh liked the school group of his, and you were glad to hear he had a space for himself in his school. Personally, I'd still appreciate having a word with Nate about his communication skills. Her tone of voice was low and pointed. You'd be worried for Nate, if not for the playful smile that accompanied her words. Cheryl let out a little laugh at that. I do have Nate's number, but he wouldn't pick up. The people in my group only answer when they feel like hearing from me. So usually I have to wait for them to call. Either that or they'd never consider answering my calls. or calling me or talking to me at all unless the supervisor forces them to. It was such a bleak description of his dynamic with his group, but he didn't seem to realize it until he glanced up and saw the concerned looks on everyone's faces. His smile fell. He hesitated to add one more thing. Well, except for one who always answer for sure. Oh? She immediately perked up.
Really?
So what's this friend of yours? Oh. He hesitated to answer. Something Cove picked up on. Not exactly. Yeah, I'd like to be friends, though. Alright. Liz crossed her arms together once more, grim-faced like she was the commander of a ship to be lead her little crew into a battle. You should call them right now. What? If you want to be friends with them, I can help. If you're going to be in the same group again, then you should at least try to get along. No, I couldn't. He quietly grew flustered, his tongue stumbling over his sentences. I don't want to be a bother.
I mean,
Oh, Liz, what are we going to do? Watch watch him while he talks to someone on the phone? No, Cove. Shiloh. The last syllable of Shiloh's name trailing off into nothing, it soon became clear Liz not fully thought a plan yet, but she wouldn't be Liz if she just stopped there. Shiloh, could you put them on a video call and we could all talk together, of course? She clapped her hands together, a wild smile on her face that didn't leave room for dissenting options.
All right.
It's a good idea. It'll work. Cove's right. It doesn't make sense for us to crowd around Shiloh while he's on the phone. That's not how you make friends. Cove smiled at you, relieved to see that someone else was seeing reason too. Come on, Shiloh. We'll just talk to them. Say that you're friends from out of town. The worst that could happen is nothing changes. But once they have more chances to talk to you, I know they'll be convinced to be better friends. It's gonna turn out okay. Shiloh stalled to answer, but his hand was already hovering over one of the pockets of his pants. Alright, we can talk. Yes. Liz clenched a hand into a fist, cheering as Shiloh officially reached into the pocket and pulled out his phone. You noticed it was the same type of model as your own, but his had red case around it. The screen lit up and Shiloh requested a video call with some number in his contacts. None of them on the list had names. He must remember what number belongs to what person. He inched closer to the three of you so everyone could hear better. Figuratively, you wondered how this looked from the outside. Four teenagers on the verge of adulthood hanging out on an old playground, all huddled up around a single phone. Strange, suspicious. The ringing of the phone broke you out of your musclings. You kept your eyes on it, your heart speeding at the end of each dial tone, thinking, could this be it? Only to have another startup? It had been ringing for a while when you started to think of what Cove said about all of you watching as Shiloh talked on the phone. Maybe even that wouldn't happen. Shiloh could sense the awkwardness in the air, smiling to try to dispel it. This is normal, don't worry. Just as he said it, the call ended, not even going to voicemail. Shiloh clicked to redial. He never answers on the first call. He always does on the second. That's how he is. At least with most people. There are exceptions. You and Liz and Cove are furtively shared rambunctious looks. None of you waiting to accidentally discourage Shiloh. When you focused on the phone again, as it started to ring once more. Jingling suddenly cut off in the middle, followed by a faint sound of white noise. With a big smile and flushed cheeks, Shiloh brought the phone up to his face. A voice, low and groggy, came rasping out of the speakers. Hello? Shiloh, on the other hand, was much more chipper.
Hi.
Hi, I'm visiting a town I used to live in when I was little, and I wanted to introduce my groupmate to the people I knew back then. Some of them have already met Nate. Can you say hey to them too? With that introduction, Charlotte stuck the phone out towards Cove, gesturing for him to greet the person on the other end. Although Cove hadn't been on board in the beginning. The only introduction of that now was lopsided tilt of his smile. He turned his gaze down to the screen, opening his mouth to speak, only to stutter a complete stop.
Hmm?
Huh? All Cole could do was sputter, a gape on the screen. His reaction had Shiloh's brow crinkling in worry. What? Shiloh's groupmate didn't sound particularly impressed with how this conversation was going so far. Shiloh frowned, retracting his arm away from Cove. As he did so, the screen tilted towards you, and you caught a glimpse of what was going on the screen. Oh, it's that Jeremy kid. He's back. Yeah, like I said before, Jeremy, he's a character in another game, and yeah, he was on here before, back when we were 13, on the step 2 part. He was visiting in the town, and we all remember that. If you've seen it, you've seen it, you remember back then he was really a mean kid. He was really a jerk. So I don't know if much. I don't think much of him really changed that much, really. Anyway, light green hair, sharp green orange eyes, shadowed with bags, and icy pale skin, all tied together to make up the scowling face of a person who clearly had no desire to be here. You knew him. Yeah, he definitely looked familiar. I mean, he doesn't have the bow cut, the bowl type cut, haircut that he had before, but yeah. A flood of memories arose. Flashes of what that summer years ago, at this very same part. You were holding on to an arrangement of fruit, Derek and Cove at your side. And that kid, mean and tiny as a tiny chihuahua, snapped at everyone who dared to come close. Are you Jeremy? Yeah. His reply was purely disinterested. I think that's the word for it. Disinterested. How did you know his name was Jeremy? You didn't tell them? No, I only called you somebody from my group at school. Oh. Jeremy regarded you cautiously for the first time, giving the situation a little of his focus. Cole blustered, sucking in a long, deep, dramatic breath.
Oh my god.
And all at once, he started shouting, and not just with his voice, he waved his arms around, gesturing wildly with his hands as he repeatedly yelled, "Oh my God," with all sorts of inflections. Oh my God, oh my God. At these antics, Jeremy gave a short huff of a sigh through his teeth, the sound tiny over the phone speakers. What what is what is this, Shiloh? Are you trying to make me suffer? Are you still mad about what happened at the amusement park? I was on your side, you know. Liz, who had been entirely lost the whole time, finally spoke up.
Huh?
What happened at the amusement park? But no one paid the question any mind. I don't know what's going on. Have you met each other before? Nope. It was an immediate reply from Jeremy, but then those stinging eyes squinted. Wait. There was a flash of recognition there as he leaned his head forward and scrutinized the both of you. His already wide frown somehow found a way to grow deeper at his realization.
Oh, it's you people. Again.
Mm-hmm. Still a jerk. Yep. He looked up from Shiloh to Cove, then to you. You could tell he was carefully putting his thoughts together. Oh, also I should let you know that even though he's still a bit of a jerk, he's also become a bit of an emo boy too. He's got that whole emo type thing going on. Just to let you know.
Sorry.
I have no idea how you people got in contact with me or what Shiloh was going to do with this. But, sorry. What? Jeremy sighed again. His gaze rode over to Cove. I don't remember exactly what I did or what I said, but I do know what I was like as a kid, and really that's all I need to know. Well, okay, but who is the apology for? It better be for me and Chippy. He spoke stingingly, through there was no hiding the shakiness present that didn't matter. Cove, coming to your defense by confronting Jeremy, brought a warm smile to your face. Jeremy, on the other hand, continued to be unimpressed. The corner of his lip twitched. I didn't need to know what the teenage guy equivalent of a smoochy squeak is, but now I do. Thanks for that. A smile offered noise escaped Cove. Unfortunately, it was also squeaky sounding. His voice immediately burned red with embarrassment. if I'm gonna say this here, because there's too many what ifs, you know? That's my squeak toy you're talking about. With your thumb pointed at Cove for an added emphasis, Cove huffed in disbelief, but he couldn't fight the smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Jeremy didn't react at all. He continued watching the four people on the other end of the unwanted call. Shoot. Jeez. Some of these words, I swear. Whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, you said it, right? The apology is for whoever. Anyone who had to deal with me back then, they weren't having a good time. He shrugged. Jeremy's focus circled from you to Cove and back again. So he realizes how much of a jerk he was, actually. But you're still a jerk, and now you're an emo boy? Okay. I kind of remember what happened, I think. You were sensitive and you tried to be nice. What a tragedy that was. Jeremy tilted his head Cove's way and then yours respectfully. Amused, Cove took a few processing moments before he could respond. He blinked and rubbed the back of his neck. Oh, thanks. I mean, it's no problem. I still got my eyes on you. Already you were bracing yourself for whatever this conversation was going to take you. Jeremy rolled his eyes. Whatever. Following Cove's eye, you watched it dart from Shiloh to Jeremy, openly wondering what had happened to Jeremy over the past few years. So, you're nice now.
Nope.
I do throw tantrums or pick fight. I don't throw tantrums or pick fights anymore. But I'm not nice. Jeremy shook his head in disbelief. That squeak toy comment wasn't a compliment, you know. I don't have the energy to get angrily worked up like I used to as a kid. It's all pointless anyway. Now I'm just miserable. Yep, typical emo. Typical emo. His tone was even grumplier than usual and dragged the symbols out on the last word for extra emphasis. Oh. An awkward laugh escaped Shiloh when his mouth pulled into a demure smile. Don't let what Jeremy says about himself get you two down. He's got people who care about him and make sure he's okay, like me. And don't listen to Shiloh. Yeah, it's nice you're looking out for someone else, Shiloh. Shiloh blushed at the compliment, while Jeremy fixed you with a blink stare. Thanks, Chippy. Okay, seriously, how long am I meant to be out of the loop here? Her expression twisted in frustration as Liz rubbed her right temple. Why am I the only one who doesn't know this kid? Charlotte goes to school with him. That's fine, but how the two of you met him and I didn't? He was around town one summer back like 5 years ago. You were there. Liz crossed her arms and stared, unconvinced at you. Is that all? While Liz seemed a bit underwhelmed, Shiloh appeared to be utterly amazed. You had to hold back a small laugh.
Really?
You knew Jeremy as a little kid? What was he like? I've always known him for only a year and a half. Well, his voice immediately hushed into nothing. You could see Cove went just thinking on those past encounters. I'm going to go with the second one, because we've seen his imitation of Jeremy before. Actually, Cove does a good Jeremy impression. Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that instead? Oh, you got an impression of me, huh? Cole's body stiffened in fear. Jeremy leaned forward just a bit. Sure, go ahead, do it. Jeremy spoke dispassionately, but somehow still felt like a dare.
Yeah!
Yeah, that'd be great. Cove shook his head, along with a stilted laugh. He was sweating in place. I really shouldn't. It's not very flattering. I bet. More broken chuckles fell out of him, and Cove turned his face towards the ground.
Sorry.
Sorry. Dropping your shoulders, you accepted that Cove wasn't going to do the impression. Shiloh frowned in disappointment. Jeremy groaned at the atmosphere. Whatever. I'll do my own impression.
You are stupid. You are stupid. You are stupid. And don't forget, you are stupid.
Yeah, love that one, don't you? He delivered the rapid-fire insults in a Bradley annoyed tone. After a phase, he went back to his own normal tone of complete disinterest. So what? So that okay. So that, but louder and shift and shriller. I'm not gonna yell for this. You laughed. You never would have guessed that Jeremy was someone who could mock himself like that. It was It was a nice surprise. At least he's willing to admit he's was a jerk, and probably pretty much still is. Even though he's more emo these days. At that At that confirmation, Shiloh burst into uncontrolled laughter. Even when he clamped down moments later, gasping for breath, there was still a wide grin plastered on his face. I can't imagine Jeremy being like that. I can't imagine him not being. I can't imagine him not being like that. They both chuckled again. Cove's mouth pulled into a bent smile. I mean, Jeremy hasn't made fun of my eyebrows once. This whole conversation, unbelievable.
Huh.
Jeremy blinked and focused all of his attentions onto Cove. His eyes unmistakably narrowed on the eyebrows. He didn't say anything at first, and then his words came out in a mumble. That makes sense. I guess insulting eyebrows was just what I did as a kid. What does that mean? What do you think it means? You weren't the only kid in the world with bad eyebrows, and you are not the only one I picked on for it.
Seriously?
I wasn't. You couldn't help yourself. You couldn't help yourself, could you? Nope. Why does the phone keep going off? I need to turn it off, probably. There we go. Put it on vibrate. Wow. So that so what made their eyebrows bad? Are you curious if yours are better? By terrible eyebrow standards, at least. Kind of, yeah.
Sigh.
Sigh. He actually says sigh. Wow. Incredulously, incredulously, Cove looked from Jeremy to you, and then back to him again. You had to question if you heard that right. Yeah, he actually spoke the word sigh instead of actually sighing. Weird, right? Noticing the reaction, Jeremy sighed for real, but he continued to answer Cole's question. The guy was practically, yeah, the guy has practically odd hair coloring white hair, but only on top of his head. Every other strand of his body is dark. Of his body is dark brown, including his immensely bushy eyebrows. He was born that way. It's not dyed. So you were the scared boy with dumb, wavy eyebrows, and he was the white-haired boy with stupid caterpillar eyebrows. Oh. Ow. Okay, yeah, ow. Unexpectedly, a loud grass came from Shiloh at that description. No, you picked on Pran for his eyebrows. I guess Pran is another one of the characters from Blood Droplets. Okay, I did, and I'm sure you find that hilarious. No, that's not very funny. So he said, but Shiloh was smothering laughter. The unconvinced note in Jeremy's voice didn't surprise you. Okay, wait. Give me a second. Let me just... Jeremy rolled his eyes in the slowest, most exaggerated way possible. When he made a complete circle, he spoke flatly while Shiloh broke into a fit of jingles. There. Who's Pran? Shiloh knows him too. Who's Pran? Shiloh knows him too?
Well,
Jeremy and Pran have known each other for a long time. They managed to go to the same boarding school later on. I met them both there in the spring last year. We're all group mates. Jeremy's gaze slid away from Shiloh. He looked somewhere between you and Cove. Pran and I met about 4.5 years ago, back when I was still an intolerable brat and Pran was meek. You can only imagine how amazing that combination was. Yeah, it must make those group meetings awkward. Nope, somehow, someway, for some reason, Pran chose to stubbornly stick with me for as long as we've known each other. He's my best friend. What? It's surprising, I know. I have a best friend, and it's the caterpillar brow guy of all people. But I guess things balance out in the end. Pan's timid nature is good and dead. He grew up to be colder than even me. I'm mopey and he's browdy. A perfect match. Oh, maybe you should become boyfriends then. Two peas in a running in a ruining every life pod. Everyone's life pod.
Gross.
Don't quote Everett. Okay, Everett, is that another guy in yeah, I guess that's another guy, another character from Blood Droplets, I guess. Cove whined after Jeremy snapped his last remark. Now, who's Everett? You don't want to know. Yeah, you don't want to know. Shiloh hummed and he watched as his three old friends, with an amused smile, he was having fun. Before you could say anything, Jeremy continued. Everett is also a part of the group, unfortunately. But he chose not to elaborate further than that. Liz sighed this time. You could feel her frustration. You couldn't blame her for that. She hadn't been able to participate much at all. She didn't know Jeremy then, so there was no basis for reminiscing now, and there was a 10-year gap in her history with Shiloh. The whole situation stuck an old chord with you. The two boys that you knew separately came to know each other, and now they know each other much better than they know any of you. Shiloh was almost a stranger. You didn't know how to feel at this point. You were happy to know that Shiloh was busy living his life and filling it with friends, with new friends, but it was hard not to feel sort of left behind. And then it was utterly bizarre that he had apparently been bonding with Jeremy. Turning to the three of you, Shiloh smiled apologetically. You wondered if he was picking up on how in the dark you, Liz and Cove, were feeling. He was perceptive when he wanted to be. At least that's what you remembered of Shiloh, who knew what he was like. Who knew what he was like now? Hey, is there anything you want to hear about Jeremy? I could tell you all about him. We should get to know each other better, right? Don't do that. It'll be okay. Jeremy whined, but Shiloh brushed his complaints off. He remained happily focused on the rest of you. And Liz seemed to perk up at the conversation shift. That sounds great. We should get to know Jeremy. So, who wants to go first? Despite being eager, it was obvious that Liz didn't have any ideas herself. Jeremy let out a very long sigh. Okay, what's his full name? Jeremy Marion Marin King? Isn't that neat? Why do you even want to know that? Are you planning on stealing my identity? He crossed his arms and sighed. A grin quietly appeared on his face. You can't have it. I'll keep that in mind. No, I don't want his phone number. I mean, why would I want his phone number for? Okay. What are his parents like? They're nice and optimistic. They work really hard, but they can be smothering, sort of, and usually embarrass Jeremy. Yeah, like they did in the past, right? And that's why he didn't want to be here. Because he felt like they were forcing him to be there. Jeremy seemed enthused. Yeah, I think that's the word. Unenthused by Shadow's answer. Does he have any siblings?
Nope.
No, Jeremy is an only child. He does have pets. He doesn't have pets either. Although Pran spends almost no time with his own family and a lot with Jeremy's. It's kind of like a sibling relationship, I think. Don't bring Pran into this awful thing. Okay. Does he have any hobbies? Reading, crafty handwork type of stuff. Oh, and archery. Jeremy is really talented. That's cool. Seriously, that's cool. Seriously, that's really cool. Jeremy scuffled at the compliments. He clearly wanted to move from the conversation. Let's see. Is he doing well in school? Yeah, Nate is doing the best, but Jeremy gets respectable scores. More or less. By doing well, you mean to ask if he's doing a good time or making friends? Then in that case, no, he's not. You weren't sure how to respond to all that. Glancing back at Jeremy, he rolled his eyes. What happened to the bowl cut and glasses? He had a bowl cut? Yeah. That sent Shiloh into a fit of laughter, while Jeremy shook his head disapprovingly. Though through chuckles, Shiloh continued with his best guess.
Right.
His mom and dad probably decided that back then, and now he picked, or they developed new tastes over the years. As for his glasses, Jeremy wears contacts at school and when he's out and about, but he still wears glasses when he's at home or working part-time at his parents' hobby shop. When is his birthday? May 4th. He's a Taurus. Jeremy refused to comment on that. Instead, he rolled his eyes. What did happen at the amusement park?
Oh!
Oh, okay. I don't actually know. I can only think of one time when we were both there. I'm not sure what part he's talking about. As far as I could tell, I didn't do anything to upset him, and I know he didn't do anything to me. Sigh. That's what you're going with, Shiloh? Jeremy, what happened? I'm not gonna tell you. It's humiliating, and Shiloh knows I'm not gonna say anything. It's why he won't explain either. For several quiet moments, everyone stared at Shiloh and Jeremy in confusion. Shiloh had a similar look in his face before averting his eyes. Sorry, I can't help you with this one, Chippy. Is he single? That has Shiloh giggling. He smiled down at the screen. Jeremy isn't anything official, but he does have someone he goes on dates with from time to time. Probably another emo person. You could call that dating. I call it punishment for all my wrongdoings in this life. Cove scrunched his face, glanced at you with like he wasn't sure he heard Jeremy correctly. Shiloh smiled sternly. Yeah, he really hates his life, doesn't he? Really, totally emo. It's complicated. She makes him happy against his will. And let me guess, he doesn't like it at all because of his emo persona. Yeah. How unfortunate. Shiloh started chuckling again. Jeremy, on the other hand, let out a loud sigh, clearly done with the current topic. How tall is he? 5'5". He's kind of short. That's all I can. That's everything I can think of. I don't need his number. Not like we would call him or anything. Cool. Thanks for asking. Cove, do you have any questions for Jeremy? Stunned, it took Cove from where to recover from being put on the spot. But ultimately, his eyes shifted from Shiloh and locked with Jeremy's. They remained like that long enough that it was if they could speak telepathically. Alright, yeah, I have a question, but Shiloh can't answer. Fine, ask me. Let's get it over with. What do you think of me? And if you don't think I'm tough or something, do you still feel like I'm stupid and wrong about everything? A crack formed in Jeremy's lactiful expression. His barely opened eyes lifted a little more, but he still spoke flatly. My opinion on stuff is basically the least important thing you could ever worry about. It's pointless. Well, I'm still asking, so... Cove, right? That's your name. Cove nodded. There was a tint of pink in his cheeks as he bashfully rubbed his arm.
Okay.
Okay, Cove. You seem like a guy who cares a lot about things that don't matter. That sounds pretty dumb to me. I outgrew that years ago. And being as soft as you act, it isn't something that I would ever do, basically. But you know what the absolute dumbest thing really is? Cove shook his head with creased brows. He leaned forward just a bit. He couldn't risk not hearing what revelation Jeremy was going to bestow on him. Making yourself miserable if you don't have to be. Oh. If you and the rest of the people here have any way to enjoy existence, then you should go ahead and do that. Stay gentle and happy, dumb eyebrow guy.
You have my approval, if that's what you wanted.
I hope you all have wonderful lives and suffer as little as possible. Oh, gee, thanks, Jeremy. Wow. The word trembled out softly. Cove was earnestly amused by Jeremy's words.
Thank you.
And you know what's not going to make you stay happy? What? Talking to a downer like me. So really, you should end this conversation right now, and none of you should ever call me again for the rest of our lives. You have a deal there, Jeremy. Of course. I mean, who wants to talk to someone like you? That sounds good. Can I hang up already? Wait, Jeremy, I can't never call you again? Shut up, Shiloh. Unfazed, Shiloh laughed with the tilt of his head, building something good up only to try undercutting it. That's the Jeremy I know.
Sorry.
You can cut the smile. We don't need that. The word dripped with sarcasm as accompanied by a smirk. It was the first time you saw him smile this whole time. Cove piped up meekly an awkward smile of his own on his face. Maybe my opinion is totally skewed because I'm comparing things how Jeremy used to be, but I mean, you don't seem that bad. What? Cove needed to look away from Jeremy painful sharp eyes to finish his thought.
I mean,
I'd probably be okay with talking to you again. Sigh. Come on. You can have standards. Yeah, Cove, he's pretty cute. Please tell me you're making fun of me. Nope, I mean it. He groaned loudly at the affection, but there was a light blush involuntarily appearing on his face. Liz clamped her hands. I think I want to change that. Yeah, okay. I'd be fine ending this call now. At least one person is making sense. You smirked at that. Liz clamped her hands together. It's a start. It's good enough.
Good.
Now that we're so much closer to Jeremy, this Jeremy kid, I think we can all get along together and be friends. Friends? Jeremy repeated the word back like it was a foreign phrase. He generally didn't seem to understand. That's right. If we keep working on it, I don't see why the five of us can't be friends. He stared at Liz incredibly for several moments. Her expression twisted into a fresh confusion of her own. Okay, 3 things. First, I already have one whole friend, and that's more than enough. Second, I still don't know who you are. Did you even say your name at any point? And most importantly, third, one of the people in his friendship is Shiloh Fields. He and I aren't going to be friends. Why not? And I'm Liz, by the way. Because he's Shiloh. Our relationship is always as good as it's ever going to be. He mercifully leaves me to be most of the time, and on the weird occasion where he needs something, I just get it over with. Then he goes away again, and I have uh, middle come of peace. You know how it works, right? You're in it with me. We have the best arrangement possible with the way it is. Jeremy looked at Shiloh, seriously back up to the validity of their relationship. But Shiloh shook his head with a laugh. I don't try to hang around too much, but that's because you're shy. You're the only one who thinks that setup is actually a good idea. Sorry. Jeremy turned his face to the side and let another exaggerated sigh. Cove and Liz both joined on Shiloh's mirth. Jeremy got no support.
Sigh.
Sigh. Of course, you'd say that. Why did I even bother? That's Shiloh's famous memory of you. That's Shiloh's famous memory for you. Liz, chuckling, stopped. Wait, what does that mean? Shiloh's famous memory. What? Oh, whatever. Basically, Shiloh annoyingly remembers everything that happens for all of eternity. At least until some piece of info he isn't helpful anymore, or he's got explaining to do. Then magically, all of a sudden, he doesn't know anything about it. His bodily inconsistent recollection of situations is pretty much a running joke. It's Shiloh's stick. One of them, anyway. A scowl dug into Lizzie's face as Jeremy spoke. Cove lost his smile, seeing her reaction. Shiloh remained silent with his big childlike eyes locked on your sister. Jeremy began to shrink away from the screen at the changing atmosphere. He broke eye contact with everyone. I'm guessing he didn't mention that.
No.
No, he didn't. And he said he forgot something to you. I do recall him saying a little thing like that. Sorry. But, well, apparently you had the pleasure of meeting Nate. You know me, and I talk a bit about Pran and Everett too. We're all in the unbearable group, and we're all unbearable people. What an amazing coincidence, huh? What we're about is kind of hard to hide. I'm gonna go now. I don't want to be the fifth wheel on your own little group. You three people have a good day, I guess. And Shiloh, I'll see you back in school.
Bye.
Bye. Jerry promptly ended the call just as people had begun to warm up to him. He accidentally found a new way to ice the mood again. Shiloh now avertly his gaze, but put his phone away and chuckled.
So,
I know that Jeremy didn't. I knew that Jeremy didn't think highly of me, but it's even worse than I thought. That's really sad. Shiloh, her, her firm tone immediately brought Shiloh's focus back to her. Once she got his attention, however, Liz's voice became small. When we first met you in the city, did you know who we were? Did you pretend not to recognize us? The two, the two old friends watched each other for a beat, but uh, ultimately Shiloh closed his eyes and lopsided with a lopsided smile. Oh, Lizzie, you gotta know I could never really forget you. Liz was speechless, but it wasn't quiet. Cove couldn't stop himself from shouting out. Oh my god, you were lying to them? Lying is a strong word. I was, improvising. That's cruel, Shiloh. Uh, yeah, that's cruel. It took everything in you not to scream at him. Your hands trembled. Shiloh only uh, momentarily tore his attention away from Liz to see your anger. That entire conversation where you found each other again was all a lie. Was all a lie. The thought of it made your chest tighten and your heart feel heavy. Go home, Shiloh, or go to my house and wait there until we can send you home.
All right.
Okay. With his shoulders dipped, head low, Shiloh immediately left the park alone. After he disappeared up the road, Liz sat her butt down right into the sand with no concern of how dirty her dress might get this time. You crouched down with your sister. You can go. We're done. Sorry, Liz. You didn't turn out to be the way you would hope. Cove shared an unsure look with you. She wanted she wanted to be alone, but this wasn't the time for that. No, it's obvious you need us here with you. Accepting that you were going to be here for this, she let out a groan. At the same time, Liz pulled the sides of her hat down, gripping it tightly in frustration. I can't believe he pretended he didn't know us. Since when was Shiloh too good to catch up with acquaintances? It's unflattering. Flattering. I'm an idiot for thinking we could talk. want me to beat him up for you? I could do that, you know. You wrapped your arms around her. You wriggled closer and pulled your big sister into a hug from the side. You continued to hold on even when she didn't let go of her hat. No, you're smart and talented and amazing. Seriously, Shiloh is a tool for not realizing that.
Fine.
I know. I shouldn't care. It doesn't matter if one person doesn't want to be my bestie. He's not the greatest man on earth. I'll be fine. But I brought him here all the way from the other side of the state, and I don't even know why he did any of this. Liz finally removed her hands from the brim of her hat in order to rub her temples instead. It blows. Cole snorted some nervous laughter at her unexpected phrasing. She didn't mind it. Say the word and I'll force the answers out of him. I'll smack him for you if you want me to. Please don't, you'll go to jail. Fine.
Thank you.
Thanks, baby brother. She squished you tight and rocked you back and forth in a dramatic hug. You let out a cove-like squeak. I love you. I love you too. And what is family for? Well, I thought it was for hugging the phone while growing up, but this works. She released you with a shaky, self-impressed laugh. Oh, I thank you too, Cole, for being around. We're going to be official family one day, right? She short him a wavy smile. He tensed up, face going red. He was willing to take her teasing if it made her feel better. Don't mention it. Good. Liz rested her eyes after last couple words. It eased your heart to see her feel better. Cove let out a soft sigh of relief. Hey. Cove then brought his face close to yours so he could speak in a whisper.
Are you okay?
Are you okay? I know Liz has his best friend. Liz was his best friend, but you know him too, and you were there when he did his whole pretend improvisation act. Don't worry about me.
No way.
You know that's impossible. I know. Thanks for asking. You're welcome. Cove ended his checkup by reaching over to pat you on the shoulder, reassuringly. Your long lifetime neighborhood group sat together quietly in the sand, just enjoying the feeling of familiarity and support. You weren't entirely sure how much time passed, but you were eventually caught off guard by a soft call in the distance. In unison, the three of you turned your heads to the sound, and there, standing in the edge of the playground, was Shiloh himself. He waved. You know what? I'm just gonna do this. You flipped him off for being such a jerk. It was your very first thought upon seeing his freckled face. I'd want to pick this, but yeah, I'm just gonna say this one. You got a lot of nerve, Shiloh. You meant every word of that. What's that? I couldn't hear you from over there, but don't get up on my account. I'll come to you. No. You know he heard what you said. Shiloh approached with easy strides as he had been welcomed. You were foiled with how much confidence or shamelessness the boy was apparently capable of now. Liz turned her face and refused to acknowledge what was happening. She might have been trying to think happy thoughts and wish Shiloh's presence away. Unfortunately, it didn't work. When Shiloh arrived, he plopped down into the sand with the rest of you, his legs folded up
Hi.
carelessly. Hi. Leave before I make you leave. Seriously, get lost. I will. Just a minute. In just a minute. What do you want now? Well, I figured you want to talk to me after you'd had some space. I ought to let you do that, even if you're gonna yell at me. Liz finally faced him to be free to snap at Shiloh with full force. And why in the world would you think that? Unfazed, Shiloh looked back at her softly. You haven't changed that much, Lizzie. You're the one who found me online when I brushed you off earlier this summer. When have you ever preferred leaving something unresolved in the end? You didn't even get a chance to make me explain why I did it. I bet you're dying to know that. You're dying to do that. Liz grounded her teeth, quietly fuming. Shiloh had called it right on. That sucked. for her. Fine, I'll bite. Give me your excuses.
Well,
Well, mostly it was really bad timing. I could have handled it a lot better if I had known I was going to see you all that day, and if there wasn't a self-appointed hall monitor dustfully watching every move people made. And hi, good to see you, gotta go. I was simply too much for a little heart to manage. It was simply too much for your little heart to manage. Of course, the goal was to keep as much distance as possible. Admitting I was the guy you knew wouldn't have been helpful. So you can't stand us. And me trying to reconnect was just a huge pain for you after all. Amusingly wonderful, thank you so much for saying so. No, that's not it. Don't feel bad, though. You're almost never wrong. Your older sister's brows twitched as she stared at Shiloh in tired disbelief. He smiled back at her brightly. I did it so this wouldn't happen. What? I dealt with the situation in the way I always do, by saying stuff I didn't exactly mean because it's just easier that way. You heard Jeremy. That's what I'm known for. Sure, right now you're mad that I pretended not to remember you. But if I hadn't done that, it would have been something else later on, and we'd have ended up here still. Liz's anger became more and more difficult for her to maintain. It was soon replaced with a sad confusion. Then don't do that. Don't be like that. Why not be someone you're actually okay showing me? Shiloh chuckled uncomfortably and searched for a way to explain himself to his former idol. I wouldn't have made you sad if I could have avoided it. I mean that. I thought I could at least finish this visit without issues. Jeremy wasn't someone I expected to call me out. That's pointless to him usually. But I'm not going to be someone whose personality revolves around making you happy. No matter how much I follow others, it wasn't for them. Every decision was mine. I couldn't be in charge, so being a sidekick to the best option was something I did for my sake. I chose to let people be the boss when it's what I need, and I choose where to stop it. And the best I can do for you now is spare you from dealing with it. I'm not the earnest as you are. I'm not as nice as you are. I was always like that, even as a kid. I knew it. I was sure you weren't being honest back then. At least I'm admitting it now. I knew that's essentially how you were back then. You were a scaredy cat who wanted someone to defend you.
Jeez!
Simply imagine that in the past 10 years you grew out of that and learned how to speak to others like, I don't know, an actual grown up human being. Well, in my defense, I'm not an adult yet. I won't be 18 until later this year in October 30th. Yeah, October 30th. You remembered. So did you, punk. Shiloh chuckled self-consciously as Liz smirked at him. There was an affordable moment before she became serious again. I liked you when we were kids. I wanted to know you now. That's what upset me the most. The idea that maybe you only wanted to be rid of your old friends.
Aw.
Oh, Lizzie, you're too good to need someone like me in your life. That's the truth. I'm not worth the effort. Oh, so now he's kind of going email too. Well, you've been hanging around Jeremy too long. Seriously. Except for with unusual people who have odd taste. Then she straightened up in the sand, brushing her dress back out. That's an incredibly annoying thing to say. It's insane. You've only changed in his stupid ways and stayed the same for the rest. That's fair. Is it? It means maybe I have unusual taste. You could have stuffed Shiloh's entire hat into his mouth with how wide he opened it. Really? Well, as much as a mother hen being compelled to look out for their chick, no matter how useless they are, is unusual. I can't help it. You haven't changed that much after all, either. You're still Shiloh. You're painfully still Shiloh.
You're welcome.
I brought you here and I'm gonna abandon you. It has to be someone's job to look out for and keep an eye on you. With her surely returning, she pulled herself up off the ground and growled down at Shiloh with her arms folded. Now, I do want an apology for everything done behind our backs when you could have opened up with all that you just said. You should have given us a real chance to stayed home. This stunt was rude to me and Chippy and Cove too. As if bringing the baby chick comparison to life. Shiloh dustfully did as he was told.
Sorry.
Sorry, Lizzie, Chippy, Cove, everyone. I didn't want to cause problems or ruin the day. And you don't have to accept just because I'm saying it. Not everybody needs to be like everyone. Oh, I don't know if you did. I don't know if you did anything to me personally, but alright then. As long as you're not going to keep upsetting people. Thanks, Cove. I've avoided doing that. I'll avoid doing that in the future. He then changed his focus to you. His expression was curious. He wanted to know where your feelings landed on him. Yeah, that's something I want to know. Were you pretending to have a good time with us today? No, it really was uh, great to come back to the old neighborhood and see you three. I only guessed it would end badly, so I tried not to get into the situation in the first place. Chibi, do you want to stay for what's left? Do you want to stay what's left of the evening? You don't have to. As you got to your feet, you thought about it. You didn't want to spend any more time with Shiloh. Yeah, we're done with you. Go away, Shiloh. Go back to your other game. Okay. Let's just be honest. I don't like you, Shiloh. Pure and simple. You were obviously done with all of this nonsense. Crossing your arms, you wanted to see how Shiloh would spin this. He smiled.
That's all right.
That's okay. Cove started nervously rubbing his scar. He ended up looking at Liz. You both probably already know what I'm gonna say. Sorry, I don't want Chippy to be left alone. Liz nodded and turned towards Shiloh. There was almost a wistful look in her expression. Well, looks like it's me and Shiloh and Chippy and Cove. It really is just like old times. That got a laugh out of both Shiloh and Cove as they got to their feet. You even cracked a smile thinking about how things seem to always go the same way. Is there anywhere you want to go while you're here? Shiloh didn't answer right away. He seemed to be thinking hard about what he wanted, and then his expression softened. Could we go to the shore? That sounds wonderful. with a small wave, you and Cove Liz began walking, making her way down to the beach. Shallow took a step towards you and smiled. Bye, Chippy. Bye, Cove. Bye. Bye. With that, he was already off, trailing after Liz, a few steps behind you. Couldn't help but feel a wave of nostalgia wash over you as they went off together. Even if you didn't stay for the entire day, you felt like you'd gotten closure from all this, and not even from just Shiloh. Strangely, you'd gotten resolution with Jeremy, of all people, the old villain that won somewhere long ago. Brushing your thoughts aside, you noticed that Cove was wanting for you, waiting for you with a cautious smile.
So,
We're now in the world. We're now in the world where Shiloh's personality. Okay, yeah. We're now in the world where Shiloh's personality is harder to deal with than Jeremy's. How did that happen? I know, right? He went from being a shy kid to being a jerk. And a bit of an emo at that too. But look who he's hanging out with, of course. You chuckled awkwardly, not knowing what else to do. Cove did the same. Together you stayed at the park until the sun fallen and the day was long over. You never could have seen where the day was heading when it started. However, you appreciated the opportunities it brought to you in the end. It felt right to end it with Cove. Besides immediate family, no one else had been there for you as long as he had. After that, Shiloh disappeared from Sunset Bird once again, though this time it wasn't heartbreaking or hard to understand. This time it was just another part of life. And it helped that Liz had her own phone and laptop and could easily check in on him from time to time. And that's the end of it. That's the end of Serendipity. So, save it right there. Okay. So again, thank you for watching on my YouTube channel. Again, I want to say I appreciate having 16 subscribers on my channel. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the support you're giving me for being here. Don't forget to click that like button and click the subscribe button for those out there who haven't done so already. It would be great to have some more subscribers. That would be great. But more importantly, I would really appreciate it if if you could go to my Patreon account and please, please, please become a Patreon contributor. Like I said again, it's for charity. All the money that goes in there goes directly to charity. And that's the reason why I'm doing this. This is why I record videos for YouTube. This is why I set a Patreon account. I'm not doing this for no reason at all. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it because this is what I enjoy doing. I like doing work, charity work. You know, I like doing this stuff. Okay. And since I can't really do very many live performances right now as a fursuit entertainer as I like to, because of the COVID situation. I had to come up with a better situation, better idea, come up with an idea that I thought might work to raise money for charity. Because I've tried doing it through GoFundMe, and I tried doing it through the Facebook. Facebook, they have a thing where you can try to raise money through Facebook to go to charity, and both of those did not work out. I did not get it. They did not go anywhere with it. So far, I have not received any support or contributors to my Patreon account, which is kind of really depressing. But at the same time, I'm not giving up. I don't want to quit this. I really want to keep this up. I really want to keep this going. But I need your guys' support. I really do need your guys' support. So please go to my Patreon account if you can and become a Patreon contributor. I'd really appreciate it. Really, 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 really appreciate it if you could do that. Like I said, the money goes strictly to charity. I don't see a penny of it. I don't get any of it. I don't need the money. I really don't. I mean, I don't. Okay? So, with that, I'm gonna... Okay, yeah, I already said it. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and quit, and I will see you guys later. And thanks again.